This is the DustTrak II. The first thing you would do is it's shipped with the batteries on the side, so you'd have to put the batteries inside, and they go in the back. And then you power it on. So the DustTrak II only measures one size particle at a time. So there's inlets, different size inlets. We usually use 2.5 and 10. So whichever size you're gonna leave for the monitoring process, you have to make sure to select the right one. So once the monitor is on, a few things you wanna check. So you wanna go to setup. There's a stylus on the side you can use. So you go into the setup bar, and there's a setting selection, and you want to double check that the date and time is correct. And you want to verify that the correct date is there and the correct time is there. So once that's all set, you want to go into the flow calibration, and you want to check the flow of the instrument. So typically it's our standard that the DustTraks are at 3 liters per minute unless specified by your project manager. So you want to double check that. But the way you check it is this is a rotometer, and you connect that to the inlet, and it will go up. So this is reading 3 liters per minute, so that's perfect. And then if you have to make any changes, you just want to press save, because if you leave the screen without saving it, it will not save. So you press save, and then you want to check the zero calibration. So you go into zero cal, and it will tell you attach the zero filter and press start. So you always have to bring a zero filter with you, which will be in the case. And you attach the tubing. There's also a diagram that says flow, but you attach the tubing to the inlet, start, and that will run for 60 seconds. So once you zero the instrument, you want to verify that it actually zeroed. So you would start the monitor, and it will start running, and you want to put the zero filter on. So as long as it's reading 0, you're all set, so you can stop the instrument. And that's the calibration process. So then what you would do is, if you're measuring 2.5, you would put that inlet on the monitor. And there are different modes to run the DustTrak in. So there's survey mode if you're doing a walkthrough or remote monitoring, and then there's program mode, which is if you're leaving the monitor in the field and to collect data. So you want to verify what mode you're in. So if we're doing survey mode, so if you're just leaving it in the field for a remote monitoring project, you would go hit survey. It will ask you for a time constant, and you want that to read 10 seconds unless otherwise specified. And there's an option for auto start on power up, and you want that to read yes, which essentially means if it lost power and shut down and came back on, it would start running again. So that's survey mode. If you are leaving the instrument in the field to collect data on the instrument itself, you would put it in program mode. So that will come up with a list of options. You can change the name, so you can put EHE1. The test length, you want to make sure that you select an appropriate amount of days. So if you're leaving the instrument in the field for 5 days, you could select 10, or just to be safe. The logging interval is always at 5 minutes, and then the time constant is at 5 seconds. You want the auto zero to be off, and you don't want to use the start date and start time. So once those are set up, you can double check the data to make sure that the data is not full. So you can go into the data tab, And if there's tests that are already in there, you can delete all so that you don't run out of storage. So once it's on the mode that you'd like to run, you go back to the main screen, you plug in the monitor, and then you want to double check that the power is working. So you would go in and take out the batteries. It's still on. You want to put the batteries back in. So once that's all in place, the power's working, you would start the test. And then when you're leaving it in the field, you want to lock the screen so that nobody can tamper with it. So you would tap the main button on the top left corner 3 times, the lock button, which will be green, 3 times, and then tap main again 3 times, and the lock will change from green to red. And that way, if someone presses stop, nobody will stop your test. When you're leaving these in the field, you fill out the data log and custody form. So you'd put the project number, field person, and then you'd fill in the data logger ID. So for the DustTraks and DRXs, you'd put the serial number, which is at the bottom down here. And then you also want to mark down the calibration date. So you write those down, write down the location, and then the parameters. So this would be PM 2.5. And you write down the start date, time, and your initials. When you come back to the field to pick up the equipment, you want to check the off zero of the monitor in case any drift has happened. So you would take your zero filter and you mark down the stop time. So you put the zero filter on the monitor and you record at the bottom of the data logging sheet what the off zero is. So this is reading 0 milligrams per meters cubed. Then you would unlock the machine, so you would tap main, tap the lock screen, tap main again. You stop the test. There's an option to go in and look at the average data that you collected, so you can go into the data tab at the bottom and you click on the name of your test. So this was EEG1, and there will have statistics, so you can write down the average reading for the time that you left it out. And you can record that under the 0, and then you're all set.